So what is a media committee? So committees are subsections of the coalition's executive board that work on a specific goal. So we are focused on change through media and using the media to showcase what we are doing as a coalition. And what we've done so far. So the first thing we did was create an anonymous story form for our Instagram. And so this gives a place where girls and women are able to share their stories with being able to stay anonymous, so they are able to share their stories in a safer space to an Instagram account that's made for girls and by girls. So it's just a very safe space that we've tried to create. And then we've created an infographic on the women in politics with the education committee's information. And then we're in the process of collecting videos for a coalition board introduction YouTube video.
Sorry, I wasn't unmuted. So like Mercedes said, we have our anonymous story form. And again, this is a form it's a Google form you'll fill out, and you can share your experiences with gender inequality without your name or email being recorded. And this is just a great way to get your story out, but maybe if you're not comfortable with people knowing that it's about you, then you can spread the word without necessarily having that baggage attached to you. And so I think Emma's gonna drop the form in the chat. So we'd really, really appreciate it if you guys could check it out and consider putting in a response. And this is just an example of one of the responses we got. Again, everyone's story is different, and yours definitely doesn't have to be this long. It can be shorter, it can be longer. We are open to anything. So we just want to give you guys one of the really amazing stories we received. So I'm just gonna read it for everyone. It was about women and girls on the autism spectrum, and the person who submitted this said, "I'm a woman on the spectrum and I did not get my diagnosis until I was 18. I'm 20 now. In contrast, boys often get diagnosed in infancy or early childhood."
Girls and women on the autism spectrum and with other neurodivergent identities get diagnosed less often and later than boys and men. Girls and women also get misdiagnosed more. This is because the diagnostic tests have questions that only test for the male symptoms of autism. Female symptoms are often too subtle and hidden for the test to pick up. I experienced this bias, and as a woman, I am on the spectrum and did not get my diagnosis until I was 18. I'm 20 now. In contrast, boys often get diagnosed in infancy or early childhood.
This bias in testing results in too many women going undiagnosed and missing out on receiving services, supports, and accommodations which are often only available to those with a professional diagnosis. Addressing this bias lies at the intersection of both disability advocacy and women's rights and must be done if these movements are to advance.
So again, that was a great story, and we really appreciate whoever submitted that, and also if you guys would check out that form. And now we're going to shift gears from talking about Girl Up in general to talking more about media. So just to start this, we wanted you to type in the chat what comes to mind when you think of media. Maybe this is what types of media, what people use media for, just what comes to mind. I think definitely social media I see is a big one for everyone because I think we all use it. And then I see some more news sources like newspapers and magazines, along with broadcast media like radio or podcasts. Television and films, yeah, that's a great one. TV, yeah. I think TV is something people don't really think of at first when you think of media because it's mostly fictional, but it's definitely one. Social media, newscasts. Yes, can't forget books.
Thank you so much, everyone, just for those responses. And I'm just going to talk a little bit more about some different kinds of media. There are definitely many more kinds, but this is just a couple examples. One example we could have is photojournalism, because when we use photos, rather than words as a medium for our stories, they can be more universal and can often maybe show more of our ideas than just words could. Another very common form of media is social media, which you're all very familiar with. Because social media is such a popular way to connect with others, by sharing on those platforms, we were able to reach out to many more people and make it much more accessible for those to learn and to educate themselves and others. We have public speaking, which, like, for example, Amanda Gorman at the inauguration, which is so inspiring, because by speaking out, we can make a change in our communities by inspiring others who have not considered it before, maybe are unsure how to create change in their own communities. And finally, writing, such as newspapers, magazines, blogs, so much more than that. By voicing our own opinions and our own stories, we can learn from one another and get to see things from a new perspective that we might have not considered before.
So now for using these types of media to inspire change, I think we've kind of touched on this throughout the whole event with all our speakers, but media is a great way to tell your stories and express your beliefs, along with getting the word out to a wide variety of people who you might not normally contact. You know, with your phone, you can automatically text someone all the way across the country or even across the world, which is pretty amazing. And social media is a great tool for spreading the word about important issues happening in your community and around the world. I know we talked about the use of media and the Black Lives Matter protests that were happening over the summer, but I think that was a great way for people to just go on their phone and see what was happening and just spread the word.
So now we're going to talk about gender disparities in media. So only 6.6% of the highest grossing films of all time have been directed by women. On average, women represent 35% of the speakers in international conferences. About 50% of female journalists from 50 countries said they face physical and verbal abuse throughout the course of their work. Only 1% of films employed 10 or more women in key behind-the-scenes roles. Female photographers are less likely to be employed by a large media company than their male counterparts, and also less likely to receive assignments that would advance their careers. And according to the American Political Science Review, men dominate 75% of conversations in decision-making groups. And some ways that we can combat this is really allowing for women to tell their stories and kind of teaching women through events like this about how to navigate the media and how to keep at it and keep going, as like a lot of our panelists in our keynote have said, like to keep going even when people disagree with you. And so Girl Up is on a mission to amplify #GirlUpStories, sharing tips and resources on how young women activists can tell their stories their way and build effective narratives through photography, video, writing, social media, and public speaking.
So this year, again, Girl Up's commitment is to storytelling. And the reason that storytelling is the focus or the theme of Girl Up this year is because of the power it has for activism. Stories can break barriers, build connections, unite, persuade, inspire, educate others, and promote social change. So the thing about stories is it's very much more impactful than just seeing a fact or a statistic somewhere about gender inequality or any issue, because it's a personal experience. And I think it's a way that people can really connect to an experience that maybe they haven't experienced themselves. And like Mercedes said, girls and women often do not have equal opportunities in storytelling. They don't have equal opportunities to create stories, see themselves reflected in stories, or have their stories be heard and validated. So this is what Girl Up is trying to change.
Girl Up is hosting a storytelling challenge for girls and clubs everywhere to interview inspiring women in their communities. You can share these stories on social media with their permission by using #EqualityEverywhere and #GirlUpStories and tagging Girl Up on Twitter and Girl Up Campaign on Instagram.
So now we've made a little list of some things that you can do to take action now, that you have the power to do in your own community. So first we have to fill out the anonymous story form in our Instagram bio. We're going to keep coming back to this because we really would like some responses. And also this is the way to share your story, again, without it being tied to your name. And we are very likely to share a story that you put in this form to our Instagram, which is really exciting. Also to watch the storytelling videos on the official Girl Up YouTube account to just hear more about storytelling in general and to hear other people's stories, other girls' stories from around the world. Also, you can take photos of your Girl Up Club if you are involved in one and tag Girl Up on Instagram and Twitter so they can see your pictures too. And follow Instagram accounts that relay factual evidence about issues you care about. So you might have heard of the Teen Leadership Network or Change. And also, I know a lot of people put in the chat about news stations and news as a form of media. So you can follow along with news stations that you can rely on for factual evidence.
You can also start a Girl Up Club at your school or in your neighborhood or get involved in an already existing club. You could attend and promote local events on topics of gender equity, such as Planned Parenthood events on your story, like your Instagram story or Snapchat story, or even making an announcement to your class at school. Or you could create a trend like the Instagram story bingo boards, like the ones that are like fill out the bingo and like tag 3 people to showcase either the impacts of gender inequality or things that are being done to create gender equity or things you could do, or one of the tag 10 beautiful woman challenges that were really popular, I know, at the beginning of quarantine.
You can use your Instagram story to promote petitions or events related to causes you care about just by even sharing GoFundMes or just infographics to educate other people. You can try to educate others like your family and your friends on issues that you are interested and care about and feel passionate about. You can share your story with those who you're comfortable with and support those who do share those experiences. And finally, you can donate, promote, and volunteer for fundraisers and events that are seeking volunteer work.